Hi everybody, Brian Norcross here with a video update because we have a new tropical storm. Tropical Storm Erin has formed in the eastern Atlantic. Let's take a look at the information from the National Hurricane Center. There you see Erin, 45-mile-an-hour winds is the estimate, and we have it moving west at 20. That's at a pretty good clip. But that's not uncommon for systems out there in the eastern Atlantic that are caught in that strong trade wind flow. And estimated pressure 1,000 for millibars. It's a small system, and the thing about small systems is that they find a pocket of atmosphere that's conducive to strengthening. They can really blow up. But on the other hand, that dust out there could get in the works and slow it down pretty easily because it doesn't have defenses from being a big system. So we'll see exactly how all that works out. But we do have Erin well ahead of schedule. August 22nd would be the normal time, or the average time, to have a fifth storm, looking at the averages between 1991 and 2020. All right, let's look at this close up here. And you can see where the model analysis is of the winds. Notice it's not really very round and not well developed. And then the question is there a west wind here? And yeah, you can see some cloud elements, low-level cloud elements moving that way. That's what must have convinced the forecasters of the National Hurricane Center there's enough of a west wind to say that there's a circulation here. They measured the wind speed already, or estimated the wind speed above 40 miles per hour. So therefore, we get a tropical storm. All right, here's what's ahead of this storm is you see lots of dust out in here. You can see that in two ways. One is from the NASA model that monitors the atmosphere and kind of figures out where the dust is. We put that on there. But also notice these clouds, these speckled clouds in here. That's an indication of the top of the clouds just drying out as they try and form. So an indication of dry air and dust there. Well, here's our system, and it's moving in this direction, so it's got to move through all that stuff, and then a very solid bunch of dust out here. So we'll see how this works out, because from the Hurricane Center's forecast is for it to continuously intensify so that it ends up being a hurricane, a Category 3 hurricane, when it's over here near or north of the northeastern Caribbean islands. So you see they at 60 tomorrow, 70, 80, 90 as it moves on to the west. Well, that uniform intensity increase counts on the fact that some dust doesn't get in there and slow it down and so forth, or that it finds a pocket of conducive atmosphere. Because remember, the flow is coming around like this, so it's bringing up some moisture from the south. So if it can bring some into the circulation, it can push off the dust. But the dust is going to push back. So we'll see. This is their first estimate here on the 11 a.m. Eastern Time advisory. And all the computer forecasts really are right down the cone. High confidence that it's going to end up in this general area near or north of the Caribbean islands on Saturday. So we're going to keep in mind these time frames here. So that's 5 days from now. There's where the consensus is. The consensus, which is an average of the best computer models, that's what the National Hurricane Center uses to make their forecast. All right, then when we look at the other models, including the AI models that are out now, you see the Google ones are a little to the south. Some other ones, including the European and the European AI over here, they're a little to the north. So we look at that average, it's exactly the same as what the cone showed us, somewhere near or north of the Caribbean islands at the end of the week. And we have confidence about that because high pressure is here. It's going to steer it that way. Okay, all that makes sense. But here we are on Saturday, and a front is coming down along with the dip in the jet stream that goes with that. And so that's going to break the high, and then we get into the question marks of exactly when is this going to turn. If the high pressure is like that, well, it could turn up east of Bermuda. If the high pressure noses over here some, it could go farther to the west out here. And so that's why we're uncertain, but we're talking about well in advance. So let's look at what the computers say. There's that cluster where the end of the cone is, like we showed just a moment ago. Okay, now let's go forward in time a couple days. So here we are to a week from today. And notice you have, if you look at the overall thing, it's spread out a little more. We have some going to the left and some to the right, because it depends on how the steering is and how strong the storm is. The weaker the storm, the farther west it's likely to go before it turns. So since we have that uncertainty in both factors, we take this thing off to the west like that. And if we go a couple more days into the future, now we're at 9 days, which normally we don't count on anything. But the main point is you can have out to sea to threatening the southeast somewhere as plausible scenarios. So we don't look at the consensus in this case. We ask ourselves what's plausible, and there are enough forecasts over in here that could threaten the east coast of the U.S. that we say that this is not an out to sea 100% thing. This is we're going to have to monitor it, but this is way next week. Normally we wouldn't even look at this, but now we have the technology to look that far in advance, but with a lot of uncertainty attached. So that's where we stand with new Tropical Storm Erin. Of course, lots of time to watch it, and we'll have the latest for you right here. Thanks. Have a good day.